So, what do you want to talk about? You know, on Monday or Tuesday, I was listening to Chris Johnston from The Athletic on the radio, and he was telling a story that he had been told from before Game 6 in the Maple Leafs Senators series, where the Leafs had gone up 3-0. They'd lost Game 4, went home and lost Game 5. And after Game 5, Craig Berube was going to go into the room to have a conversation with the guys, which I guess he doesn't normally do. Every coach is a little different. But I guess he's one of those guys who gives them their space after the game. Certainly if there's stuff that needs to be, you can have a meeting a few minutes later or a little while later. But he was going to go into the room after the Leafs had dropped 2 in a row after going up 3-0 on the Sens. And I guess new captain, Austin Matthews, stopped him, spoke to him, and said, "We're good." Essentially, we got this. Essentially, there's no reason to come in and have a state of the nation, calm things down, anything like that. Whatever the coach had planned, Matthews suggested to him was under control in the room. And Berube said, okay, and that was it. Leafs come out for Game 6, finish it off, do the job. And while CJ's telling the story, I'm kind of like, I like that. Makes me feel comfortable. Maybe this group is a little different. Some of these guys have matured a bit. You've brought in some more veteran leadership or just different personalities in your Carlos and your Tanevs and OELs and, I don't know, Scott Lawton. And so, kind of like, he's telling this story before Game 5 of Leafs Panthers. I guess as a way to suggest, everyone's trying to talk themselves into, or I don't know, this idea that the Leafs are different is the reason to panic. It was an apt story to tell at the time. The Leafs had gone up 2-0 against Florida, dropped 2 in a row down in Florida, and we're coming back. And it's easy to look back now after Game 5, where we've seen what happened, and say, oof, boy, they didn't learn shit, or whatever happened in that Ottawa series was not applicable here, or whatever. But in the moment, before that game, you're like, okay, it's a good story. This is one of those rare things we get when the reporters go in the locker room and they come out and they give you all the fucking platitudes and whatever else that you don't care about. That was an interesting story to me. I have no idea whether Tavares did or did not do the same thing under Sheldon Keefe at any point, whether this meant anything, but it was interesting. At least up until, well, I don't even remember, 7:10 p.m. on Wednesday night. Leafs are down 3-2, heading back to Sunrise. Sunrise. It sounds so hopeful and optimistic. Great things happen in Sunrise, right? Matt Robinson with you in the TCA studio in beautiful Bytown, Canada. It is Thursday evening, around 6:30 p.m., and I told myself all day, we're not doing this. We're not doing a show, and there was a couple of reasons. There was going to be plenty of content, plenty of takes, plenty of people out saying what they had to say, and that's fine. I don't fault any of them. Here I am doing the exact same thing. But the other reason was, in case you missed it, Thursday was the 10th anniversary of the Tall Can Audio podcast. And Rob and I had already recorded a show to drop on that day. And I didn't want to rush in here and record something else to drop on the same day to trample all over that. People hear just to hear my misery or whatever else. I wanted to let that episode breathe. So I just wasn't going to do anything. But it just kept itching and itching and itching away at me all day. And by the time the evening came around, I just, you know what? We're going to go in. We're going to do something quick. And that'll drop on Friday. So here I am, lending my voice unwelcome to the masses. Some of you are here to empathize. Some of you, I'm sure, are here to hear me melt down. Some of you are just here because you're always here. It's part of your routine. We appreciate that. But if you missed it on Thursday, that 10th anniversary show was a little more fun than this. Just reminiscing a little bit. It's at tallcaneaudio.com or wherever you're hearing me right now, whatever that podcast app was. Rob and I just sort of looking back and enjoying. We'll have a pint here because that's what we do. This is a 7% West Coast IPA, the Nickelbrook Headstock IPA, which we have had before on this show. We weren't looking to do anything crazy here, but just have a pint, shoot the shit, and go from there. So we'll have the Headstock from Nickelbrook Brewing. I always like this one. It's a pretty nice beer. We'll have that Headstock to find out why the Leafs won't stop upsetting me. Before we get into it a little further, Michaela Schreider will be here coming out of the long weekend. Rob is out of town this weekend. We did mention that on the 10th anniversary show. So Schreids will be here. We'll see what that's going to look like. We could be on the back end of a Game 7. Leafs fans have been on the back end of every one of those. The hindquarters, however you'd want to phrase it. We'll trust Schreids to be kind, if that is indeed the case. It didn't look on Wednesday night like that will be necessary, but we'll see. PWHL playoffs roar on. There's some interesting news out of the NFL I'm anxious to get her take on. So that'll be at the end of the long weekend to start your week next week. Schreids, always good to sit in, and we appreciate that. We look forward to that. We think. Look, I sort of said a minute ago, I didn't know if it was worthwhile to come in here and do a whole lot, because honestly, it's not done yet. In theory, this is, well, it's not in theory that this is going back to Florida. It is going back to Florida, to Sunrise. And maybe they'll win. I see a lot of people with the cutesy, well, the most Leafy thing to do would be to go down there and win, and then come home, get everybody's hopes up again, and then smash them on home ice. The Leafs spent literally half the game Wednesday night getting booed at home. Maybe a little less than that, because as the third period went on, there wasn't a ton of people left in the building to continue the booing. And I saw that being poked fun at from other fan bases around the league, and that's fine. Most of their teams have already gone home, so this is what happens. You watch everybody who's left, but what would you have done? Especially if you had been through this before. I talked earlier in the week about that 4 overtime game between the Ottawa Charge and the Montreal Victoire. And I opened up. I was vulnerable with you guys. Because it's a bit of a sin in the hockey world to leave early, even if you're losing. I don't know if it's quite the same here in Ottawa. I won't speak for Sens fans. The building, as you know, is not particularly centrally located. So if you're pounding on somebody or being pounded on, maybe the Ottawa fan base is a little more understanding, like, it's minus 36 outside. I'm going to have to dig my car out in the blizzard that's gone on while I've been in here and drive 29 minutes home, or, I I don't know why I picked 29. 30 minutes would have been fine. And it's not unrealistic based on where that arena is. Maybe the people in Ottawa are more understanding. But I have been to enough Leaf games to know that if you leave early with GO trains every hour, with buses literally attached to the arena, it's attached to Union Station, subways all the time, people give you shit if you are walking down the stairs and leaving early. I've only done it once in Toronto, and I heard about it. Leafs are down 5-1 to Buffalo with 4.5 minutes left. I'm gone. My buddy and I are walking out, and people are sort of like, "You giving up on your team, man?" And you're like, well, but if I catch the 9:43 train, I can get home at a decent time instead of having to wait for the 10:43 train. And these guys suck. This was in the heart of the Nicholas Hagman era Toronto Maple Leafs. Number 1 center Matt Stajan Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm leaving. But I only did it once because they did hurt my feelings. And so I've been there while other people have left, and everybody gets the same raw deal. You're quitting on your team. There was none of that on Wednesday. Once the exodus started, it caught fire. It was almost like a protest. But this wasn't something you got invited to for free. This wasn't a $22, junior game somewhere. I'm a little out of touch on my junior hockey pricing in some markets. It's people who have spent hundreds or thousands of dollars going, fuck this. Some of them have seen it a bunch of times before. They've been there. They're season ticket holders, or their family is, at this point, it's been handed down from grandparent to parent, and it's like cousins sharing because nobody can afford a full season themselves. Whatever it might be, people are like, no, I'm gone. I'm not watching this anymore. And so the fan base is being poked fun at for A, sitting there and watching your team getting crushed, but B, also for leaving. So I don't really have a beef with fans leaving. How did I end up down this road? Oh, just that, you couldn't get booed for too long for half the game when everybody left in the third period. Look, they deserve to be booed. But this is a really hard... I'll be honest with you. I've got normally when I do a show, I've got like a bunch of topics in front of me and a couple points underneath each one of them, or stats that I might need or whatever. I got like 9 words in front of me here. It's either a name or a phrase or something that I want to hit on. This is going to be nothing but free-flowing stream of consciousness. Forgive me if it's all over the map, or I start down 1 point and never circle back to it. That almost happened there. You guys just saw it. I talked about walking out on a Buffalo game in 2010. You can see how this gets dangerous. If you wanted to stay and boo till the bitter end, good on you. If you wanted to stay loyal till the bitter end, because it's not technically over, good on you. If you wanted to get up and leave because you were disgusted or because it seemed like a bit of a protest movement, you could show this organization what you think, I got no beef with that either. Good on you. But this is a really tough spot to be in. And I've sort of taken some shit over the last week or so on the idea that I'm taking it too easy on Austin Matthews. And I don't think it's an unreasonable criticism that you're throwing at me. Some of you are using some unreasonable and upsetting words. But the premise of the criticism is reasonable. And look, what I said was 69 goal Austin Matthews did not arrive at any point this year. And if you thought he might show up on day one of the playoffs, that's on you. That was never going to happen. But we did see this season, while whatever injury he's dealing with is affecting him, and he's been out of the lineup a couple times, and this goes back to camp, if you recall. It was a preseason game he left. For the very first time. We did at least get a 30 to 35 goal Austin Matthews, who started putting up more assists than he normally did to make himself useful. That guy should have showed up to the playoffs. And of course, yeah, it's the same guy. But if you were expecting gangbusters, multiple goal games, Austin Matthews, that you did not see from October to March, that's on you. If 30 to 35 goal Austin Matthews was your expectation, based on the fact that that is what he showed you from October to March, that's fine. And there's no sign of that guy either. So I'm not suggesting that he doesn't deserve criticism. But it gets really tough with this guy. Last year, if you remember, we didn't know what the hell was going on. People were talking about it was a stomach bug and he was shitting himself to death or whatever the hell was going on. At the end of that series against Boston, where he did not play every game, he came back for Game 7. If you recall, he was playing on like a third line, and it gets complicated trying to give them numbers when Austin Matthews is on it. But like Pontus Holmberg was his winger, and like they were not saying he was ready to go and ready to rock and roll as your number one center. He sort of tentatively came back in. So that was coming off the 69 goal season. You didn't get him then either. There was another series earlier on. Was it one of the Tampa series? Maybe earlier than that, where he wasn't healthy either. And so I have been a little hesitant to be like I just said, if the fact that he's not blowing the doors off Florida right now is surprising to you, that's on you. He's clearly hurt. And the quite reasonable retort is he's always hurt. He's injured too often. Well, that's reasonable. Like, I don't know what you do about it. Some people's, like, it's not like he's not training. He's not a little fat ass rolling into training camp every year or anything like that. Some guys get hurt more often than others. Sometimes it's hereditary. Sometimes it's genetic. I think those words mean the same thing. Sometimes it's bad luck. The fact that he is not available to be the Austin Matthews that we need him to be in playoff time reasonably often is a reasonable criticism. But you have to be able to kind of peel this apart, right? And look and go, okay, so he's not scoring in the playoffs at a 60-goal pace. I'm willing to accept a 30-goal pace. That would be fine, but he's not giving me that either. That's not fine. And what he did in Game 5 wasn't close to fine. One of the things we talked about on the Tuesday show, or whenever the hell it was, about any potential lineup changes and would you move Nylander and Marner to different lines, was like one of the things we talked about was Marner can't set up Matthews if Matthews can't shoot right now. But they are good defensively together. And if you put Willie with Matthews, that gets limited a little bit. And Marner goes with Tavares, and now that gets limited a little bit. Now, both lines have some defensive consciousness there, but it does limit this idea that, well, at least our two 11 or 12 or $13 million guys are checking well. They decided to keep them together for Game 5, and they got run over. I don't know how you quantify this. I have seen multiple people suggest that Matthews and Marner were the two worst players on the Leafs team on Wednesday night. I don't know how you measure that. I don't know how you say for certain that that's true. But it would be difficult to argue against. Shot attempts in the first period when those two lines went head-to-head, Barkov versus Matthews, were 11-1 for Florida. Earlier on in the series, while you're still annoyed that Marner and Matthews aren't scoring, they are doing a good job of keeping the Barkov line off the score sheet. That completely vanished in Game 5. The Barkov line destroyed Matthews and Marner. Now, not all of those ended up in your net because somehow Dmitry Kulikov is scoring on you. Mikko Nikola is scoring on you. And Jesper Boquist is scoring on you. You talk about the Leafs and their depth scoring versus their stars scoring. It wasn't exactly Florida's stars who lit you up, but they didn't have to. They do it often enough that pressure wasn't on them, and they had one of those nights where, man, Ekblad is scoring, and Jesus Christ. But this idea of, well, at least Matthews and Marner are containing Barkov went completely out the window too. And the thing that makes me crazy about this series is you guys heard me multiple times on this show pick Florida. And it wasn't this crazy out there, swing for the fences. Everybody picked Florida. Florida in 6 was the consensus. And we are in line for that to happen. So how did you get me so pissed off? If this is where we always thought we were going, and this is the part that makes me crazy. Florida, I believe this, is a better team than Toronto. It's better constructed. They are the defending Stanley Cup champions. I said to you guys a week or two ago before this series, if Toronto's going to win in one way or another, it will be at least partially because Florida does it to themselves. They run out of gas after 2 long playoff runs. Bobrovsky, as the oldest goalie in the playoffs, doesn't quite have it anymore. The injuries that they've been dealing with catch up to them. That's not a great place for you to want to be if you're the opponent, where you're like, our best chance is if they fuck themselves. But that's sort of where I came off on this, if you recall. Florida was going to be the better team, and this was going to be a tough go for Toronto. And so if this goes Florida in 6, and you won the first 2 at home, then you lose Game 3 in overtime. Game 4, the Leafs didn't play well necessarily, but that is a 1-0 game until whatever it was, midway through the third, when Bennett scores on that debacle of a 2-on-1. That game is still in reach, right? In theory, you got all this high-priced firepower. One guy falls at the blue line and you get a Matthews-Marner 2-on-1 or whatever. Nylander Pacioretty. A bounce at the blue line and Riley rifles it off, another skated in. It's 1-0. Anything can happen. You're in that game too. Game as well, because it was Game 4, not Game 2. Got to be careful with my wording here. If that's the way the rest of this series had played out, you lost in overtime off a shitty bounce in Game 3. You went down 2-0 in Game 4 where you didn't play great, but you come back in Game 5 and you fight hard. Whether your stars score or not, and you end up losing there and then going back to Florida and you're a bit defeated and go out, that's sort of the way I saw this series going anyway. Everybody said Florida in 6. But instead, you have to make it a spectacle. You have to make it a debacle. You have to fall the fuck apart. In the third period, Tkachuk and Bennett are openly and freely laughing, skating back to the bench. You gotta show the fuck up. And they just didn't. I said this was going to bounce around a little bit in the Matthews and the Marner of it all. I did touch on the Matthews thing and how complicated it. Look, to summarize on Matthews, yeah, you can be pissed at that guy for not being anything. Like, even the defensive side of it just completely fell apart for him in Game 5. Did not show up. Not fucking good enough. Marner is, well, maybe the way we tie this together, because I have for a while on here talked about how in games 5, 6, and 7, games 4, 5, 6, and 7, Nylander's points per game goes up and Marner's goes down. And that was when measuring those two. In the last 3 years of games 5 or later, Austin Matthews is now a -7. Even if you can't score, this is supposed to be the two-way defensive. It hasn't showed up. But Marner's numbers match that quite a bit in terms of points per game, trailing way off when the pressure gets ratcheted up. And I don't know after Game 5 if it's even still an option to bring that guy back. And I the response is that you always get, and sometimes from me, that guy's going to show up somewhere, continue to put up 100 points, and maybe mature, or maybe just being in a different mix when that team, his new team, finally gets to the playoffs, assuming it's a young team, which is really the only type of team, a Chicago, a San Jose, an Anaheim, something like that would have room to pay him. When those guys get to the playoffs and it's a different group and a different mix, maybe the pressure's not on him as the Toronto kid, and he goes off and becomes a playoff performer. That's possible. Going to a playoff team, like, if I assume he'd prefer to go to a Dallas or a Tampa or a Florida or whatever. None of those teams have that kind of cap space. I assume Vegas could do something to find it. They always do. But I don't know how you bring him back. And it might not matter. There's been a lot of talk that he's already decided he's going to free agency. And you'd love to be able to say, well, that would explain a lot about his effort level in this fucking playoffs. But it's been this way for a very long time. But after that giveaway, the backhand spin-off out into fucking center ice, right in the middle. It's not quite as bad because it's not overtime and it's not quite as direct. But that's Alex Galchenyuk against Montreal in the 21 playoffs bad. And worse is that this defensive gem, and I said that with a weird amount of snark and sarcasm, he is a good defensive player. Where the fuck did he go? You lob that on the backhand up the middle to somebody at center ice. You're 10 or 12 feet inside your own blue line, and that guy beats you to the net? No. You have to give a fuck. And that was it for Marner for the night in terms of showing up in any significant way. I've always said about Mitch, it's not that Mitch doesn't care. I believed Mitch cares too much and the pressure gets to him. He cannot excel when the spotlight comes on and the tension is there hard and everyone's watching you to get it done. It crushes him. But you don't get crushed by that if you don't give a fuck. He cares too much. He did not look in Game 5 like he cared at all. And so if those reports are true, that he's already essentially decided he's leaving, that would explain that pretty easily. I don't know, to come back to the point, let's say they lose on Friday night or Sunday night, whatever, and they don't advance. Everybody goes away for a couple of weeks. You come back, you talk about it. try and negotiate a contract. Assuming he's even interested in that, I don't know if you can do that at all. Even if he came to you, and again, this will never happen, but begging to come back. I'll come back at a discount. And not like, if he says, I'll take $4 million, yeah, you probably take him back and you'll be fine with it. But if he thinks he's worth $13 million and says, I'll come back here for, I don't know, 9, I don't know that you can say yes. This mix, for whatever reason, just doesn't work. And this fan base, man, they're fed up. Every year we say they're going to demand change and something's going to happen. You've never seen it like this. You have never seen 2/3 of the arena empty. The team getting booed for literally half the game in the playoffs. People who spent thousands of dollars to come. It's never been like this. Mitch Marner, if he leaves, and this might not be fair, like his performances haven't been good, but he is about to get the Vince Carter treatment. He will be blamed if he's the one who leaves, and I think he will be. He'll be blamed for all of this. He'll become the poster child, the scapegoat. We got to stand behind the guys who are still here. So Mitch wears it all. That's what's on the table right now. And I'm already doing the post-mortem. It's really hard not to. I came into this saying I'm going to talk about the series. We'll wait and talk about the future later. This has been all. Because honestly, guys, let's say in a dream world, and even that, it's too sarcastic. Look, it is not off the table for the Leafs to win this series. They're a good team. I don't think they're as good as Florida, but they could win 2 in a row. But it sure didn't look like in Game 5 that was what was coming, did it? That group looked, I don't know. It felt very much like, fuck it. They know something big is coming. They know things are about to change. Once the house started to fall over, they just stood there and let it fall over. But let's say Toronto comes back and wins this series. What will that tell us? Like, I didn't buy the whole legacy game story that everyone was trying to tell going into Game 5. Because I sort of, and we've talked about this as well, I subscribe to this theory that when the Leafs' backs are against the wall, that's not typically when they crumble. Current circumstances set aside. We've seen them come back multiple times from 3-1 down against Boston. We saw them come back from 3-0 in that Game 4 in Columbus, 3-0 down in that specific game, with like a minute and a half left. Like, these guys will fight. And, you know, they almost sort of like the underdog. It's when it comes time to put the knife in somebody's chest and show a little killer instinct, they can't do it. They were up 3-2 on Boston in 2019. Lost that series. They were up 3-1 on Montreal in 2021. You know, they've had different moments where they could eliminate teams. The first time was at 22 against Tampa. They were up 3-2 and ended up losing that series in 7. So it's typically when it's like things are going okay and all we have to do is show some killer instinct and strangle the last bit of life out of these fuckers that it goes away. So it's possible they go to Florida, backs against the wall, and say, everyone thinks we're the worst? Fuck you. We're winning tonight. But I that's why I couldn't yet buy into this legacy game story. Everyone was trying to. In fact, I'm sick of the phrase at this point. Like the big networks and the media were talking about that going in, like a story they created, and then blame the Leafs for not living up to it. Now, blame the Leafs for playing like shit, But you decided this was the legacy game and then blamed them for not fulfilling their legacies. Whether they won or lost Game 5, the legacy game wasn't going to be till Game 6. If they'd won Game 5, it's can they finish the Cup champions? Show us something. You struggled to finish the Sens. Can you finish the Panthers? Or Game 6, win it after losing Game 5, force yourself into Game 7, and that's your legacy game, if anything is going to be. So I didn't buy Game 5 as a legacy game. I do now. You turned it into one by not showing up. The legacy that you have created over the last however many years is that you can't do this. You will shrink in big moments. And in another one, you showed up and got stomped. So, like I said, I didn't think going in that this was a legacy game. But if this is what everybody already quite rightly thought about you, you didn't do anything to deter that thought in Game 5. You cemented it further. So, like I said, I didn't go in thinking legacy game. Kind of came out going, yeah, well, there's the legacy. The point I've been trying to get to before detouring all over the goddamn place is that if they go down to Florida and Joseph Wall, let's say, pitches the game of his life, doesn't even have to be a shutout. Leafs win 3-1. A goal from Nyes and, I don't know, a Jake McCabe slap shot tipped in front by, I don't know, Tavares. Or off a Panther and in, and then you score the empty netter. Did that change anything for you in terms of the way you view this group? You come home in Game 7. Let's say you even win that one. Maybe Willie scores one. You know, Domi redeems himself, and you get through that one 2-0, 2-1, whatever it might be. But Matthews and Marner aren't the ones carrying you through it. Do you feel like you're going any further? Do you feel like you're beating Carolina? Do you feel like you're beating Dallas or Edmonton? Should you somehow get that far? The problem you're in now is that short of those 2 or 3 or 4 guys showing up in Game 6 and Game 7 and having like multiple 3-point nights, Matthews scores 2 and gets an assist, Mitchie's got 3 points, Willie's got a goal and 2 assists in each game, then this doesn't change anything. It doesn't. If your depth and the fact that you're just a good team and you have a pretty competent goalie right now in Joseph Wall, although we'll see what his mindset is like after getting hung out to dry on Wednesday. Like, this almost has to happen a certain way for it to matter at all. Obviously, as a fan, I'm going to cheer for them to win and get through, and I don't really care how. But in terms of setting up a different story for the core 4 era, those guys have to be the guys who do it in 6 and 7. And if they're not the ones who do it, but you find a way to sneak through, nothing's changed. And that's such a shitty feeling to have while you're sitting here watching the rest of this. And it's just as likely that they had the last, like I said, bit of life pounded out of them, a stake driven through the core 4 era in Game 5, and we're just going down to Florida now to watch this. I've been saying sunrise. The sun set on this. The last blow, and that'll be it. Like, that's possible too. Perhaps in some people's mind, that's what's more likely. It didn't look like this Leafs team was about to get up off the mat at the end of Game 5. But you're now, like I said, you're in this spot where even if you win and you don't win the right way, nothing's changed. So I don't know if when this is all said and done, like Mitch, if you can bring Mitch back. Mitch had the chance to negotiate all year and he didn't want to do it. He turned down a trade at the deadline, which was his right to do that. So I don't think that he's that interested in coming back. I think he's ready for a fresh start. I remember saying like a year and a half ago or more than that maybe. He's not the fun-loving Mitch anymore. The guy who was singing along with Bon Jovi on the bench and, grinning and making jokes in the face-off circles and stuff like that. He just looks like he's been crushed. The spirit's gone right out of him. So maybe he does need to go somewhere else. But if that narrative is wrong and he is interested in coming back, I'm not sure the Leafs can do it. It might just be time. And to let a talent like that go, because he is an incredible talent, to let him go for nothing, that's tough. Yeah, you'll have $11, $12, $13 million in cap space. Rantanen signed. I don't know if he was ever interested in coming anyway. And there's not a whole lot else out there. You don't have anything to trade to bring in and replace him because you've dealt away your prospects and picks to create this team. And Tavares might be the same way. John Tavares is one of my top 3, top 5 favorite players of all time. Watched him through the Oshawa Generals, all that stuff. Was so pumped when he came home. And I defended him through that entire 7-year contract because people went insane trying to write him off. And he had another great year this year. You might just have to say, under no circumstances are you coming back. We have to change things. No matter how dramatic a hometown discount. Like, I do believe he might be willing to give you a fairly significant hometown discount to come or to stay. You might just have to say, no, you have to go. And again, I circle back to it. I said it earlier. The counter argument, and it's the right one, is, yeah, then what do you got? It's Matthews, Willie, and Nyes. And then Max Domi at 2C, Pontus Holmberg. Like, obviously they'll go out and they'll find somebody else to play these roles. But are you going to be better? Are you prepared to take a step back for a year or two? With Riley aging, OEL aging, Tanev certainly aging. You're in a bad spot. You got no picks to trade for anything. You got no surefire free agents to come in and replace it. And yet you still might just have to say to these two guys, enough. We can't do this anymore. Man. I don't know. They're not in a good spot. This was half of my, when the series is finally over rant. Sort of feels like it is, doesn't it? And I get the Leafy thing is to go and win 6 and lose. I don't know. Maybe that's what'll happen. If they're just going to lose, honestly, if they're just going to lose in 7, just lose down there in 6. Don't come back Sunday night, May long weekend, make everybody come in and watch this and be humiliated all over again. Honestly, I half checked out on Game 5. I'm watching it. I got it on, obviously, but during the regular season, pretty often, after a show or if there's stuff that I can do on my laptop instead of here in the studio, I'll plug away while I'm watching the Leafs or the Sens or whatever game is on that night through the regular season, while I'm searching for clips and doing work or whatever else is going on, right? And you're sort of half paying attention, but half paying attention to what you're doing, and I never do that in the playoffs. I've told you, I'm a bit of a grouch during the playoffs. I just sit there and mutter to myself and whatever else, but I'm watching pretty intently. Yeah, not on Wednesday. When I was starting to get away from them, I was just like, whatever. Not whatever. I'm playing it off like I don't care. I care, but I've seen this movie before. Now, I've never seen it in a non-elimination game. Normally, you get humiliated and throw up all over yourself, and then that's the end of the season, and you go give your shitty little press conferences at the end. I've never seen it where you do that and then have to go play another game. So that's an interesting wrinkle. But somebody texted me around 11:15 on Wednesday night and said, what do you think of so-and-so's comments in the press? I'm like, I didn't see it. What do you think of what Berube said? I didn't see it. I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, literally the moment the buzzer went, I turned the TV off. And they kind of busted on me, and you have a little temper tantrum? And yeah, basically, it's not like you're stomping around this stupid team, but I don't care. Ooh, are we going to have a little scrum after the buzzer? We're sending a message. Yawn. Interviews and press conferences. Yeah, we're going to flush this one, and, we'll be better tomorrow. The only thing I heard the next morning is that Chris Tanev, of all people, took responsibility. You'd have to go an awful long goddamn way down the list of people I'm blaming for where they stand right now to get to Chris fucking Tanev. I guess the other clip I saw on Twitter on Thursday morning was Craig Berube's comments. And this is something I mentioned about Ryan O'Reilly a little while ago. Like, Craig Berube was the guy brought in to fix the problem. One good run with St. Louis in 2019, we all decided he's the genius who's going to fix this. Cool. And it's like, oh my God, it's me now. Like, the media has been saying all day he looked shocked or looked stunned or whatever. That's not the vibe I get. It's like I watched this from a distance for however many years, and I thought, because these people, to their credit, this is not a criticism. If you're an athlete like Craig Berube was, who made the NHL, and a coach who has won a Stanley Cup, you are very confident in your own abilities. And you think, when I get there, I could fix that. And suddenly, Craig Berube is standing in the middle of it and going, I don't know how to fix that. I have identified the problem, but I do not have a solution. Thanks, Craig. We've all identified the problem. We've been looking at it for a very long time. You're the new guy here. And it happened with Ryan O'Reilly when he came, the captain of that same St. Louis Blues team in 2019 that won Craig Berube his cup. And he shows up in 2023, and you just start to fall apart in round 2 against Florida. And he suddenly has that sound in his voice and that look on his face. It's like, I've been in the league a long time. I've watched this from afar. I know the Toronto reputation. I thought, when I got here, some other guys, we'd be the group to turn it around. But it's happening again, and I'm standing in the middle of it. It's like that dream you have where you're naked walking through school or whatever, only you come to realize, oh, fuck, I'm not dreaming. The Leafs are doing it again, and I'm part of the Leafs. That's the vibe I got from Craig Berube from the few quotes I saw. Wasn't he was shocked or stunned. It was that this thing I've been watching on TV for a very long time suddenly has me as a main character. How the hell did I get here? Now, we'll see if he's the evil genius. We'll see if they do continue that story I mentioned a little while ago. That they don't collapse when things are, well, they do collapse when things are good. They don't collapse when their back's against the wall. They push and push and push until they can't anymore. So maybe they do go win Game 6, and we'll see in Game 7. It's all still on the table. But it just doesn't feel like it. It's probably enough, right? I don't know how long I can talk about rookie contract Matthew Nyes dragging around $24 million of top line behind him. Max Domi. Guy deserves to be out of the lineup. Stupid penalty after stupid penalty after stupid penalty, and yet you're so desperate for offense, for somebody to score. You can't take him out because the replacement is Pontus Holmberg. Or meanwhile, in Edmonton, Connor Brown, Kasperi Kapanen, are headed off to, and Zach Hyman are headed off to the conference final. Ghosts of Leafs past. Do it. Whatever happened to Andreas Johnsson? Get the band back together in Edmonton. Just to shove it up my... Good for those guys, I guess. I think I'm good. After saying all day, yeah, I'm not going to do it. No need to do it. Don't do it. We did it. Because they're doing it again. As I said, Shrides will be here to kick off next week at the end of the long weekend. I'm not certain whether I'll be here between now and then. I sort of got a lot of this off my chest, right? Like, let's say they do go down on Friday night, lose, series is over. What's left to say Saturday morning? I mentioned that we put out the 10th anniversary show on Thursday. Throughout those 10 years, when I was a younger man, big losses, or frankly, after any playoff game, run in here, do an episode of the show. I don't know if I'm just tired in general or just tired of talking about this and these guys. I don't know. If they do something spectacular, good or bad, after Game 6, maybe I'll come in here on Saturday and do something. But otherwise, we likely let this play out. They win or lose Game 6, and maybe force a Game 7, in which case Shrides will be here the next day, and we'll talk about it then. That'll be a lot of fun. In the coming weeks, you're also going to hear from Keegan Matheson, MLB.com. Love that guy. Really excited to talk to him, and actually he seemed excited to have a little craft beer talk as well. He's got a book coming out called The Franchise, all about the Jays. That's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk to him. That's a couple weeks away at this point. We are going to get Bunda back in here as well. But I think that's where we will put a bow on this one. Lots of good stuff still to come, though. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you're hearing us right now and following Tall Can Audio on your favorite social media platform to watch my slow decline into madness in real time. Thanks so much for listening. Have yourselves a fantastic Victoria Day long weekend. The weather looks like shit around my cottage, so I may not make it down there for that. But maybe it'll be better in other parts of the province. I hope so. Enjoy it, and we will talk to you all next time.
That's it. I cannot work under these conditions. If anybody wants me, I'll be downstairs at McDougal's. Call the weekend guy. I don't care.